Okay, I'm here. I'm getting settled in. My headphones are tangled and I've been running around. All right, here we go. Whew. Just the amount of craziness. Hashtag ketchup stains. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting right at it. Welcome to HAL SPARKS Mega Worldwide. It's nice to see you guys after the surprise hearing this afternoon, full of exciting and shocking moments, some of which were, the question is, why race this out? Let's jump right into it. You're watching HAL SPARKS Mega Worldwide. That's what you're here for. We discuss these kind of things. The main reason, why did they want to get Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony out right now? Some are saying it's because of concerns for her safety, which is a very morose way of saying that they want to get her to be able to speak before they do her in. The reality is all of her testimony is already on tape. If anybody was stupid enough to think that that would solve it, it would actually, I believe, codify her testimony beforehand, almost entirely. So I call bullshit. Hello from the Netherlands. Right on, Netherlands. Look at you. By the way, while you're at it, while you're gathering around in here, tell everybody where you're from, because we are indeed mega worldwide. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff I forget to tell you to do. Give a thumbs up on the show, and don't click the notification bell. It's how the man gets you. Anyways, so the talk is, well, did they rush this up because they're worried about her? Okay. No, flat out, I don't think that's the case. I think the case is that Meadows or someone like Pat Cipollone is in negotiations to talk, and they're either on the fence or they're going to testify sooner than they thought. That something they thought was going to be maybe a month out is actually weeks out or even days out. And therefore, since her testimony tees up that other testimony, you need to get her on record. Her day maybe could have waited a week. They could have been in a week and a half. But whoever that was that they thought was going to take a lot longer is actually going to come a lot sooner. And that also, this may speed up that process. That they know that that this person, whoever it is, whether it's Meadows, whether it's Pat Cipollone, whether it's someone around them, they know, they've seen her testimony. They know what she's going to say. They know what she said and what they wanted to bring attention to. And I'll show you some of those moments in case you missed it. There's plenty of compilations going around. Some of the stuff is many of us who've been keeping up with a lot of this stuff, especially if you watch my channel when we've gone through all the Mike Pillow stuff and we've gone through all the bullshit, it's kind of like you binge watched a show and you're already through it and all your friends are on the, season 1 mid-season finale, and you're like, yeah, I know how it works out. And so there's very few surprises. But occasionally you ever go back on a show that you binge watched, and maybe you fell asleep as one of these episodes was going through, and you're like, did I ever see this episode? I don't remember this. Those kind of moments where you're like, oh, that's surprising. That was good. I feel like I was watching the show anew again. There were a few of those, and there have been throughout, and there even were some today with Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony that you were like, oh, okay, that I missed that part. I didn't have, most of it was because it was in secret testimony or it hadn't been released to the public, or it was just something that was not talked about behind the scenes or, in front of cameras because it happened behind the scenes. And then there's some things where you're just like, the what now? Like finding out that Donald Trump throws shit when he's upset, not surprising to a single person. Finding out that he may have tried to choke out his own Secret Service agents qualifies as shocking and crazy, and a little bit even further, because most of us don't even think the asshole had it in him. Also, for the record, for all the Trump trying to defend himself in this situation, because he's been twerping all day on Truth Social, because he's back to like how he used to live tweet things. He's been twerping on there, and he's put out more twerps on there today than he's like 6 days worth in one day while this is happening. He's definitely in panic mode. And one of the defenses he's making is that Mark Meadows says to her, did you hear what happened in the Beast, meaning the president's big limo? And she said, no. And he tells the story about the joking thing. Okay. He wasn't in the Beast. He was in one of the Suburbans. Let me restate that. Trump is saying it's impossible for me to have choked the driver in the Beast. It's not possible. And the only way that anybody thinks the Beast is anywhere relevant to this conversation is the very fact that Mark Meadows or whoever it was relating the story to Cassidy said, did you hear what happened in the Beast? It wasn't in the Beast. It was never in the Beast. It wasn't in the Beast. They even showed the footage. He left the grounds in a Suburban. That was not the Beast. It was not the giant limo. He was just in one of the Suburbans. Okay? Let me state that again. Trump's defense of his actions, it would have been impossible for him to seize the wheel in the Beast because you can't, is idiotic immaterial, and even he doesn't, he's using it as cover like a moron. The reality is he was in a Suburban. It was just leaning forward in an SUV. I'm saying the reason is, yeah, exactly. The Beast is a Cadillac body who had a Suburban frame. It's way bigger. He's not in that. He was in one of the standard Suburbans. And I mean, standard Secret Service ones, but still. So when he says I couldn't have done that because I was in the Beast, blah, blah, blah. No, he was just in one of the regular travel Suburbans, a close range, because they didn't think it was necessary for where he was going. So his defense sucks and it's terrible. It's just silly and stuff. So if I may, before we start our usual traipse of stuff, here's some of the jaw-dropping things that Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony revealed in the thing today. Let's go.
I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away.
The mags are magnetometers, the things that, basically metal detectors. He had the metal detectors for the gathering, and he was in a rush to do this. You have to understand, part of this, what if you don't hear, she said, I don't fucking care if they have guns with them. They're not here to hurt me. Take the mags away. Which is just fucking whatever. By the way, the idea that there were like anti-Trump fibbies in there and Antifa and BLM, and that these are the guys that triggered it and they started the whole thing. Understand that whole argument goes in the shitter right now, because if he really believed that, or any of his people believe that there were Antifa and BLM people and they're the people behind the real violence, then the idea that they could be walking around with guns if they want to at a open air speech of the president is just fucking bonkers. But the reality is he didn't believe that at all. These are my people. They're not here to hurt me. They're here to hurt them. And as a matter of fact, I kind of need them to have their guns. So huge. But again, undercuts his belief, or his alleged belief, that or even the bullshit you've heard as far as like on everything from Jimmy Dore to Tucker Carlson. Is there a difference at this point? About the idea that there were BLM and Antifa and FBI people, and they wouldn't have done it. None of these maggots would have attacked the place if some, maggot whisperer hadn't come up and told them to attack the Capitol. Meanwhile, Trump's basically saying, I think everybody in this fucking crowd is on my side, and if they're armed, I don't give a shit. Let them walk ahead to the Capitol.
Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here.
Let my people in. Let my people in. Let them walk to, and they can march to the Capitol armed, because he's cool with. All right.
Let the people in. Take the effing mags away.
Tony described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, I'm the effing president. Take me up to the Capitol now.
Yeah, so the whole, I'm going to go down there with you. And a lot of us were of the opinion that it was sort of laziness and a lie on Trump's part. But according to her testimony from people close to Trump, he thought he was going to go down there and like yell charge or some shit. Stuff had already started to pop off. That was the fucked up part. So he was like in a bum rush to hurry up and get up there. Now understand too, that all of this points to the fact that in his mind isn't the rally and whether people were marching up there in the abstract. It's that they were on a very distinct timeline, that they needed to stop this before Mike Pence could do his duty as vice president and fuck up the plan. There was it increasingly seems like he was in a rush to get up there and get those people to stop this certification from happening in a locked and permanent way, not in a way that they could, pause for 4 hours and then come back to it and finish it in the middle of the night, which is what they ultimately did.
To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing."
Yeah, you have to pack. Sorry. I just think it would have been really fun, like, if we find out that's what he actually said, and that's when Trump lunged for him. It's like, "Sir, we have to go back to the the people from are dropping off the pods for all your stuff."
The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel.
I love this. I was like, like my jaw dropped when I was like, he what now? Like the fact that he's like, "You motherfucker," like he's doing that shit. And you have to understand, and like I said, one of the great joys of this insurrection is that it was attempted by complete fucking losers, absolute idiots, incapable of any kind of complicated logistical thinking, just morons across the board, and run by a complete loser who even became president, and it ended up being the worst fucking thing of his life. And this dickhead says, "Take me to the Capitol so I can yell charge to these people," essentially. And they're like, "No, we're not taking you. There's fucking dudes in the trees with guns." They showed pictures of these Proud Boys that were armed in the trees. I guess presumably so they can shoot into the windows of the Capitol at some point if it ever started to pop off. Basically, the reason the Proud Boys that had the guns never ended up opening fire was because they were waiting for Trump to declare the Insurrection Act, invoke the Insurrection Act, declare martial law, and then they would have officially been deputized by the president in the war room on the 5th, which is what we'll probably find out, theoretically from Mark Meadows, or could be just by saying, "Stand back and stand by." That'll qualify. That'll cover us later. And then they could go after it. Yeah, he wanted to lead the violence. But at the same time, we'll see.
Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing."
And then Mr. Engel was shocked and amazed at how spongy his bones were and how little muscle tone there was in the arm, and how taking his hand off the wheel was sort of like brushing a dry leaf off your porch. He was, sorry.
"We're not going to the Capitol.
We're going home to pack."
Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
Yeah. So he's reaching for the wheel, like trying to do this. And then he took his hand off, and I guess this is what we're talking about? Or he was reaching for the wheel like that, and he's like, had him take this hand off, and he was like, "Gack." I want to see a digital recreation of what this roundabout move was. He fucking lunged at his own Secret Service person. Yeah, I never saw this on West Wing. Scotty, honest to God, if they'd written a scene like this on West Wing, you'd have gone, "I'm out. This is bullshit. I'm done." You can totally, when people go, they love to say this all the time, "You can't make this stuff up." You sure as shit can. Of course you can. Just in any legit storyline that isn't like a fucking Scott McKay comedy, or a Python sketch, or Adam McKay like comedy, you'd be laughed out of the room.
Noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall.
Oh, right, the ketchup dripping down. We hope it was ketchup.
And there's a shattered porcelain plate on the
fucking porcelain and ketchup. I mean, it's like Elvis, and you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. Fucking porcelain plates and ketchup. Because he threw his cheeseburger. Because he was just, because his fish delight with ketchup. We're going to find out he ate the fucking fillet of fishes from McDonald's with ketchup on them, aren't we?
Floor. The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview.
Boo, fuckity hoo, boo, fuckity hoo, you big dumb. Sorry you're upset. The valet, by the way, they mean like the butler, the person from the kitchen that brings him his food, and in the presence of these folks, he was throwing dishes around the Oval. Like, the lack of just composure is fucking hysterical.
And had thrown his lunch against the wall.
His lunch against the wall. Well, what? Most of it. I mean, obviously what he hadn't consumed. The rest of it was in his diaper being liquefied as he filled his pants with soup.
Was this the only instance that you are aware of where the president threw dishes?
It's not.
It's not. Basically, he was like a one-man Real Housewives of Houston.
And are there other instances in the dining room that you recall where he expressed his anger?
There were several times throughout my tenure with the Chief of Staff that I was aware of him either throwing dishes or flipping the tablecloth.
Just fucking like, fuck you guys, like that. Like, I mean, flipping the tablecloth, not even the table. Like it's like he went to toss the table like bullshit, and he was gonna, and it didn't budge, and he was like fucking God. All right, floof. Maybe at any point did he go, and the flowers are still standing?
To let all the contents of the table go onto the floor and likely
so that the valet would have to pick it up.
break or go everywhere.
Knives.
Yeah, because that's how you show that you are a commander in chief. Oh yeah? You don't like what I will throw all the dishes on the floor and someone else will have to clean it up.
Guns.
By the way, I would like to remind everyone that the woman he ran against was apparently too emotional to be president, even though 11 hours, Benghazi. She didn't at any point, never saw Hillary stand up and go, fuck this noise. But the funny thing is that if we were placing bets and you're like, which one of these two people, if they wigged out, could actually turn over the table, I'm going with Hillary.
In the form of pistols and rifles, bear spray, body armor, spears, and flagpoles. Spears were one item, flagpoles were one item, but then Tony had relayed to me something to the effect of, and these effing people are fastening spears onto the ends of flagpoles.
And these fucking people are fastening spears onto the ends of flagpoles. By the way, she didn't see the footage necessarily that I'm aware of that the committee showed last week of that dude bragging about the fact that he was going to basically stab either Pelosi, AOC, and or Mike Pence.
The rioters chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." The President of the United States, Donald Trump, said that, quote, "Mike deserves it."
It's the very definition of loyalty.
And that those rioters were not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. So, obviously there were, hold on, here's another one. This might have some overlap, but here's another one. Let's see if they have anything different. This is MSNBC's comp.
I remember looking at him and saying, Rudy, could you explain
this is the Rudy Giuliani stuff.
what's happening on the 6th? He had responded something to the effect of, we're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great.
We're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great.
The president's going to be there. He's going to look powerful. He's going to be with the members. He's going to be with the senators. Talk to the chief about it. Talk to the chief about it. He knows about it. I just had an interesting conversation with Rudy, Mark. Sounds like we're going to go to the Capitol. He didn't look up from his phone and said something to the effect of, there's a lot going on, Cass, but I don't know. Things might get real, real bad on January 6th.
Now, what I think her testimony tees up more than any other thing is that Mark Meadows, and she may bring it up in this clip, we'll see. Mark Meadows was talking about going to the Willard to meet with Bannon and Roger Stone in the war room on the 5th. And he was trying to figure out a way for him to get down there in person. Now, why would you want to be there in person? Why wouldn't you just, record, send a text? Why wouldn't you just have them, touch base with you later on the phone? Well, because you want to say things that are only safe if you say them in person and you're aware that no one else is recording anything or there won't be any record of your contact. Because record of the contact with the people who are going to carry out what those guys were pointing, the Proud Boys in the direction of doing, for example, is particularly bad for Meadows. And so all of what happened today, which as extraordinary as it was, the most important thing she brought up, I think, was Mark Meadows trying on the 5th to get down to the Willard and talk to Roger Stone and Steve Bannon in person.
But when we were in the offstage announce tent, I was part of a conversation. I was in the vicinity of a conversation where I overheard the president say something to the effect of, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. Let the people in. Take the effing mags away.
I saw Mr. Cipollone right before I walked out.
Okay, so this wasn't in the other piece.
Onto West Exec that morning, and Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me.
Also, yeah, people are thinking that she may also be tipping off, teeing up Pat Cipollone's testimony. More, that's the other thing. If she's not John Dean, Cipollone would be John Dean.
We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen. The president said something to the effect of, I'm the effing president. Take me up to the Capitol now.
Well, not for long. Quit it.
To which Bobby responded, sir, we have to go back to the West Wing. The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel.
Or you'll pull back a stump. I'm kidding.
We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol. Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
And I remember Pat saying to him,
for fuck's sake. I mean, I'm still, to me, of all the stuff that was said, that's the part that I was like, wait a fucking second. They moved on from, talking about this. I'm like, motherfucker tried to choke his own Secret Service agent. Are you out of your goddamn mind? And Trump calls her a leaker. And what do we say around here, kids? What's one of our favorite Sparksisms? You can't leak a lie. That's right. Whenever Trump bitches about somebody being a leaker, which he did in her case, he didn't call her a leaker and a liar. He called the story around being in the beast fraudulent. But then, of course, his defense was the fraudulent part. So you got to, but you can't leak a lie. This is a true story. This is absolutely a true story. Look at Trump's responses. Some people are posting them online. I, of course, have a trope. Yeah, here it is. A trope scooter butt. Where is it? Search. There he is. So let's see if he's updated. Okay. Here's so 2 hours ago. This is the latest. Here's his tweets so far. I'll read them to you. Why didn't they use the 10,000 troops that I offered up on January 3rd? There would have been no January 6th, question mark. Well, because they never actually thought, and now we all know, that you'd actually sick those fuckers on the Capitol. Also, the fear is that the people you had called up, that he had called up as National Guard people, were actually on the team, that they were from states that attacked Georgia and the swing states and tried to get their elections overturned, and that they may have been hand-picked people by, Abbott and these others for this kind of takeover. So, and also, why the fuck, honest to God, why in the world? There's no riot from these people beforehand. Standard police should be able to handle this. The idea, and by the way, if they'd have surrounded it with 10,000 people, whatever, that would have been a talking point forever. So that's part of the other. Bad handwriting, that of a wacko. I don't know what the fuck that is. A total phony. I never said Mike Pence deserves it to be hung. Another made-up statement by a third-rate social climber. Will anybody ever be allowed to say that the election was rigged and stolen? Will the unselects ever discuss that our country is going to hell because of a fraudulent election? How about analyzing the election results? Her body language is that of total bull artist. Fantasyland. There is no, well, I don't know what her body language part is. You mean her, does she not do this when she talks? Her total lack of accordion hands. I'm not shitting you. This is all on Truth Social. I'm reading you this directly from his account. Cheney misspells her name. He misspells Liz Cheney's name. He spells it Chaney. Conveniently left out the snippet in my speech to go peacefully and patriotically. Isn't she disgraceful? Multiple question marks. Okay, first of all, go down there peacefully and patriotically. But if Mike Pence doesn't do what he's going to do, we're going to have to fight or we won't have a country anymore. The idea is like walk down there. Don't let them know you're coming there. Don't charge down there. Walk down there peacefully and patriotically. Don't let them know. Keep your powder dry. Don't riot until you see the whites of their eyes, would arguably be what that phrase is. Hold on. She changed lawyers a couple of days ago, and with it, her story totally changed. Shocker. He's just like, dude is losing it during this whole thing. Like, this is the most, if you look at his truth feed, he doesn't do very much. He's like maybe a couple things a day. Most of it's fairly perfunctory and arguably posted by other people. This is the closest thing to him getting back into tweet mode that he's been in since Truth Social started. And by the way, she changed her lawyers, but she didn't change her lawyers after this. Like her story here and her story in front of the committee are totally aligned, and she had different lawyers here than she had in front of the committee. It's the fucking point. Who cares? Like that part's odd. Okay, so here's the her fake story that I tried to grab the steering wheel of the White House limousine in order to steer it to the Capitol building is sick and fraudulent. Very much like the unselect committee himself. He loves that unselect thing. He thinks it's a winner. He didn't create MAGA. He's the one who came up with CAG, allegedly, Keep America Great, and he was shocked it doesn't work as well as MAGA. CAG. Wouldn't even have been possible to do such a ridiculous thing. Her story of me throwing food is also false, and why would she have to clean it up? I hardly knew who she was. Question mark. I hardly knew who she was. And then, let's see. Never complained about the crowd. It was massive. I didn't want or request that we make room for people with guns to watch my speech. Who would ever want that? Not me. Besides, there were no guns found or brought into the Capitol building. That's false. So where were all of these guns? Like the Secret Service is pointing out that these fuckers were in the trees. Basically that they would, in theory, move some of the people to a secure location, but then they would take away certain people. And as those people were evacuated, yeah. But let's see. So where were all these guns? But sadly, a gun was used on Ashley Babbitt, misspelled. He left the E off her name. With no price to pay against the person who used it. That's because he used it in the legal and lawful execution of his duties. I hardly know who this person, Cassidy Hutchinson, is, other than I heard very negative things about her, a total phony and leaker. And when she requested to go with certain others of the team to Florida after my having served a full term in office, I personally turned her request down. Why would you, if you didn't know her and she was part of the regular team, why would you personally turn it down? I'll tell you why, because you actually did hear all this shit they actually did talk about it, you know, it is reflected in a lot of the other people going, fuck this. And more than likely, she didn't actually ask. Why did you want to go with us if you felt we were so terrible? I don't know. Maybe she thought it was the only opportunity to get back all those boxes of shit you stole. I understand that she was very upset and angry that I didn't want her to go. Yes, everyone is so upset. Or be a member of the team. She is bad news. Okay, so freaking out all day fucking long. And then the next one after that is from 6 hours ago, and it's an ad for his coloring book. Don't forget, buy my little airplane book where I use all the free shots from the White House photographer and Instagram and sell them. Yeah, so it's like an ad for his book. Okay. Shit.
Something to the effect of, the rioters have gotten to the Capitol, Mark. We need to go down and see the president now. And Mark looked up at him and said, he doesn't want to do anything, Pat. And Pat said something to the effect of, and very clearly had said this to Mark, something to the effect of, Mark, something needs to be done or people are going to die and the blood's going to be on your effing hands. I remember.
Yeah, so Cipollone, this tees up either Cipollone's testimony or Mark Meadows' testimony or fucking both.
Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
Jesus Christ. You know what? If this had been almost any other vice president in history, like George H.W. Bush with Reagan, they famously did not get along together. They were put together when it came to, you know, like Republicans going, all right, we'll let you have Reagan, but we want him backed up by one of our guys. And HW was was kind of the establishment guy that would kind of balance out the ticket. If you heard that George H.W. Bush had at some point, or Reagan had said that about each other at some point, it wouldn't have been that shocking. Like after, there were even one of my favorite non-conspiracy conspiracy theories. And I don't even know if people know this one. But let's, if we can, go into the world of conspiracies for a moment. Reagan conspiracy. Let's see if I can find it. So the story is the Bush-Hinckley conspiracy. Let's see. Interestingly enough, fascinating. Oddly enough, this, I don't know if you don't know this, but the idea is that Bush was placed with Reagan, and Reagan, and the idea was Reagan's just kind of like a face for what we want to accomplish, the sort of Project for a New American Century crowd that Bush was a part of, and is head of the CIA and ambassador to China, and there was all this hinky shit going on. And the idea is that if Reagan survives his term, awesome. If he doesn't, and they had, at that point, it looked like there was going to be a recession, it wasn't automatic that he was going to get reelected. Hindsight is 2020, but everybody, every point in every election going forward, you're always like, fuck, what's going to happen? But in the tail end of it, everybody's like, oh yeah, of course, Reagan served 8 years. Like that was never, that was never guaranteed at any point. And so there's a story that Hinckley, John Hinckley, who shot Reagan, and what Neil Bush went to school together and hung out, and that Hinckley's brother or cousin or some shit was having lunch with one of the Bushes, watching the assassination on television, the attempt, when it happened. And that there's a puff of smoke in an upper window to make sure that Hinckley, which, by the way, is not true, because I have news for you. If they had a second shooter there, Reagan would have never survived. That's kind of the point. Unless the idea was that Hinckley had blanks and the idea was only to wound him, and they had this surgical sniper in the window or some bullshit. Anyways, it's a crazy theory. But you know who And this kind of works out. I have to say, there's kind of an overlap of what could possibly be going on in this current iteration of things. There you go. Author, what? Who's this guy? January 28, 2016, the latest conspiracy theory. George H.W. Bush behind Reagan assassination attempt. Now, he didn't come up with this. Okay. Conspiracy theorist and author of the upcoming book, Jeb and the Bush Crime Family, Roger Stone, alleges that former President George H.W. Bush played a role in the 1981 assassination attempt against Ronald Reagan. Stone, during an interview with Rich Zeoli on Talk Radio 1210, claimed he had done research to have found a second gunman at the scene on the grounds of the Washington Hilton Hotel. That's the one up in the window that everybody talks about. There are 2 shooters in the Reagan assassination attempt, not one. Well, if there was, he'd be dead. That's the other problem you have with that. The fact that he survived. Yeah. I give you photographic evidence, eyewitness evidence of a second man standing on a balcony holding a gun. You can clearly be seeing it. They're Secret Service guys all around. So even if you had people placed on balconies and shit who look like normal people, if the president's moving around, it's why it's such a big story when she was talking about how there are these off the record trips and these on the record trips, these scheduled trips. The reason they have scheduled trips is because they plant dudes like this all over the fucking place. To prepare for the Travis Bickles of the world, you stupid son of a bitch. Okay, it's more than you've been told. He maintains the motivation for the plan to kill the president was Bush's desire to shift away from President Reagan's foreign policy and help institute a one world government. Oh my gosh, you don't say. All right. I think it's more possible because one has to understand the backdrop here in this story. Missing from Bill O'Reilly's Killing Reagan book entirely. Al Haig, Reagan's Secretary of State, and Vice President George Bush are fighting over control of foreign policy. George Poppy Bush is for the New World Order. Haig has a quaint notion that he's Reagan's man. This is supposed to be Reagan's foreign policy, more conservative than Bush wants. There are 2 different executive orders sitting on Reagan's desk, one giving authority to Haig, one to Bush, which is all bullshit. Then there's an assassination attempt on Reagan. He comes back 3 days from Zaza, signs the order putting George Bush in charge of the machinery. The government says 5 bullets, and I trace the trajectory of 5 bullets. And the angle at which the bullet enters Reagan could not have come from the crouching position of Higley if it bounced off a door. There's a chip of paint and the evidence that did it. Right. They've never released the photos. Well, then you can't say there isn't a chip of paint, and they're not going to show you a picture of the inside of the thing because they don't fucking have to. You fucking moron. Anyways, so this has been around for a while, that this dude, that the Hinckleys went to school with the Bushes and yada, yada, yada. And Roger Stone is one of the people selling this, right? But anyways, my point is no love lost between Reagan and Bush. No love lost, arguably, between Cheney and Bush too. In a lot of ways, it was sort of an inversion. It's like the same people that allegedly the Illuminati that put George H.W. Bush with Reagan. Their next order was, okay, you can have your son in there, but he's a moron, so we want Cheney in there too, right? They flip flop okay, we'll have the vice president this time. No love lost between either of them, in that case. So imagine being Mike Pence and spending the entirety of the presidency with Donald Trump staring at him the way Pence did. You know what I mean? Like Bush and Reagan fucking didn't like each other. Clinton Gore bristled regularly. I mean, honestly, the last pair that got along really well in the last 70 years, maybe, really well, Obama, Biden. They loved each other, still do. It's interesting how when you have 2 guys with human characteristics that get along. But imagine you being Pence and your whole life, you're like your whole president, you're just standing behind Trump, just gazing at him lovingly. And then the motherfucker's like, I don't care if they hang him. He's got it coming. Like, I would not be surprised if something popped off horrible after 9/11 or whatever, and there was this back and forth, and that, I would give a fuck if they flew a plane into a building with you in it, dick. Like that kind of stuff between Bush and Cheney. That would not be surprising at all to me. Right? Yeah, Carter, Mondale, they were fine, but they weren't like peas in a pod. Like Obama, Biden were peas in a pod. Yeah, Pence just loved being downwind from Trump's farts. Exactly. By the way, thanks everybody for subscribing. Thank you, Laura, for the super chat. Thank you, Robert, for the super chat. Jonathan, thank you so much. Peter, there you go, from New Zealand. So who's doing the movie of this? Coen Brothers? I think it'd be fantastic. I think it should be a puppet show. I'm hoping the Spitting Image people do it. If you want Trump to look realistic, I think the only chance is either the Spitting Image people or whoever did Madam from Wayland Flowers.
The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry.
His Majesty is having a moment, everyone. Please, it's a Red Sox Day, everyone.
At the Attorney General's...
Alec Baldwin actually playing Trump in a SNL movie that just fucking goes full Team America is the only way to make this work. I don't need like a semi-serious like Big Short movie about this fucking nonsense. That's what we're getting right now. This is all ridiculous. Yeah, Red Sox. It's a Red Sox. For anybody who loves Kids in the Hall brain candy will get that reference. Hands doing the sign of the horn and sparkles. Thank you, Francie, for the super sticker.
EP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall.
And he'd eaten it first. Just he was that mad.
Did Rudy Giuliani ever suggest that
suggest? Did Rudy Giuliani ever suggest a shaved baboon to you?
he was interested in receiving a presidential pardon related to January 6th?
He did.
I am an innocent man. Oh, yes, I am.
Ms. Hutchison, did White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows ever indicate that he was interested in receiving a presidential pardon related to January 6th?
Mr. Meadows did seek that pardon. Yes, ma'am.
Guilty. 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 Jor-El, you have been found guilty. Thanks, Joe. Oh, okay. Aid says Trump's tweets about Pence, chance. Okay, here we go.
Let's move on now to January 6th and the conduct of Donald Trump.
I hope this is okay that we're doing this today, because this is kind of fun. I'm enjoying this. Like, I have other shit. Believe me, we got the usual cast of assholes doing their stuff, but this is kind of great.
And Mark Meadows during the attack on the Capitol.
Also, I have to do this as a. Many of you may know. Let's do a test. How many people have been watching for a long time? What's my favorite movie? Anybody know? Quick. What's my favorite movie? What is it? Fire it up. I'm waiting. It'll take a second for the chat to catch up. I'm gonna wait to see if anybody does it. It'll be in the chat room. Close. Ah, right. There you go. First one that I saw that got it right was, hold on, back up. Because Fletch is the movie I've seen the most. But my favorite movie, Kath got it, Blade Runner. And so, but it's very, very close. Like, you're right to think Fletch and Real Genius, because I quote them all the time. But my favorite movie, the one that I can watch and absorb the most, is Blade Runner. And I can't watch this, like, all day long. This is all I've been thinking. Right? Yeah. Seriously. The whole time, it's all I can think of is it's Rachel. You ever take that test yourself, Mr. Deckard? Boy, and by the way, this scene right here, they hated each other while they were filming this. The love scene. And she was so hard to work with and kind of mean that Harrison Ford didn't shave the day they did the kissing scene, because he just didn't want to kiss her because she was kind of awful. So, is the story. I spit on your grave. It's a good one. Yeah, rip Brian James, absolutely. But I mean, seriously. The only other thing I thought too, hold on. The other person I kept thinking of, where is it? Hold on. Where is it? Any Criminal Minds viewers out there? By the way, this is the picture they took after what's his ass from not Will and Grace, Darman Gregg, the dude who was the lead with when Mandy Patinkin was there, and then Mandy Patinkin leaves and everybody thinks Mandy Patinkin's a dick, and then Montaigne comes in and everybody realizes, oh, there's something else going on. She took over the kind of lead part in this. Yeah, Hotchner. Yeah, he got booted because he was I think he physically assaulted somebody on the set. You know, that was the last straw. Yeah, Paget Brewster is, I mean, she's like a young Paget Brewster. That's what I'm going with season 1, Paget Brewster from Criminal Minds. These are the two things that went through my mind while this is happening, while I'm listening to, mind blown by this shit.
I'd like now for us to listen to your description of what transpired in the West Wing during the attack. For context, in this clip, you describe the time frame starting at about 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember Mark being alone in his office for quite some time, and I know we've spoken about Ben Williamson going in at one point, and I don't personally remember Ben going in. I don't doubt that he had gone in, but I remember him being alone in his office for most of the afternoon, around 2 o'clock to 2:05.
Mm-hmm.
Around 2 o'clock to 2:05, we were watching the TV, and I could see that the rioters were getting closer and closer to the Capitol. Mark still hadn't popped out of his office or said anything about it. So that's when I went into his office. I saw that he was sitting on his couch, on his cell phone. Same as the morning where he was just kind of scrolling and typing.
Yeah. Totally effective public servant.
I said, hey, are you watching the TV, Chief? Because his TV was small, and you can see it, but I didn't know if he was really...
I like to remind you, this asshole likes to be called Chief. He put it on it his book, Commander to the Chief or whatever. Like, he liked to be called Chief, like a fucking prick.
Really paying attention.
Chief.
Watching the TV, Chief? He was like, yeah. So the rioters are getting really close. Have you talked to the president? He said, no, he wants to be alone right now. Still looking at his phone. So I start to get frustrated
because my boss is a gelatinous mess, and his boss is setting my country on fire.
Because, I sort of felt like I was watching this is not a great comparison, but a bad car accident that was about to happen where you can't stop it.
It's a great analogy.
But you want to be able to do something. And I remember thinking in that moment, Mark needs to snap out of this. And
I remember thinking at that moment, Mark is a complete fucking pussy. Right? Mark is I keep thinking, I can't believe this dickhead is my boss. How the hell?
And I don't know how to snap him out of this, but he needs to care.
I don't know how to snap him out of this, but he needs to care. Fuck, this all she does is print quotes.
And I just remember I blurted out, I said, Mark, do you know where Jim's at right now?
That was our safe word. Do you know where Jim's at right now? And that always perks him up,
And he looked up at me at that point and said, Jim? And I said, Mark, he was on the floor a little while ago giving a floor speech. Did you listen? He said, yeah, it was real good. Did you like it? And I said, yeah. Do you know where he's at right now? He said, well, no, I haven't heard from him. And I said, You might want to check in with him, Mark. And I remember pointing at the TV and I said,
Yeah. You know that guy you were just clapping because he was going to shit on the election? He's gone. He might hit. You see, a lot of our followers are fucking dumb and they might not know that he's on our team. So he might have been beaten to death a few minutes ago for all you fucking know.
the rioters are getting close. They might get in. And he looked at me and said something to the effect of, all right, I'll give him a call.
All right, I'll give him a call. Fuck, man. Like, if this woman had had a shovel, just fatang.
Not long after the riot.
All right, I'll give him a call. You know, why don't you just text him? Just doing it 100% emojis.
Broke into the Capitol. You described what happened with White House counsel Pat Cipollone.
No more than a minute and a half later, I see Pat Cipollone barreling down the hallway towards our office and rushed right in, looked at me, said, "Is Mark in his office?" And I said, "Yes." He just looked at me and started shaking his head and went over, opened Mark's office door, stood there with the door propped open,
and said, "Mark, put some pants on. This is no time to freak out."
and said something to the, Mark is still sitting on his phone. I remember like glancing and he's still sitting on his phone.
Talking to Steve Bannon and Roger Stone, obviously.
And I remember Pat saying to him something to the effect of, "The rioters have gotten to the Capitol, Mark. We need to go down and see the president now." And Mark looked up at him and said, "He doesn't want to do anything, Pat." And Pat said something to the effect of, and very clearly had said this to Mark, something to the effect of, "Mark, something needs to be done or people are going to die and the blood's going to be on your effing hands. This is getting out of control. I'm going down there." And at that point, Mark stood up from his couch, both of his phones in his hand. He had his glasses on still.
Both of his phones in his hands. Can we put a pin in that? Can we put the whole both of his phones in his hands thing? Now, it doesn't surprise me that everybody working in the White House has two phones. But in particular, considering the fact that Meadows had wanted to go down to the Willard, both of his phones in his hands kind of stands out to me. I'm just gonna, I know there's a lot to cover, but I'd just like to hang that thought in your head, if I may.
He walked out with Pat. He put both of his phones on my desk and said, "Let me know if Jim calls." And they walked out and went down.
Put both his phones on the, oh, so Jim might call on either phone. That's interesting. He didn't take his personal phone with him, put his business phone down and say, "Let me know if Jim calls," or he put both of them down. "Let me know if Jim calls. It'll show up on the screen."
To the dining room.
A few minutes later, Representative Jordan called back.
Mm-hmm.
A couple minutes later, so likely around between 2:15 and 2:25. I know the tweet went out at 2:24. I don't.
Also, by the way, for the record, I would like to remind everyone again that everyone that McCarthy wanted on the select committee, every person he was insisting be on it, are involved in this and are material witnesses. They're not random Republicans who happen to believe that the election was stolen from Trump and stood up to support him or any of that shit. The only ones McCarthy wanted on the actual committee were people that they are now needing to subpoena because they were involved. These are the only people McCarthy insisted on having on the committee. And when they couldn't be put on, he did not swap out for somebody who, somebody else who's just as much on the team, but didn't actually have their fucking hands dirty. That's one of the most fascinating parts of this.
I don't remember if I was there when the tweet went out. Or
all the people that McCarthy wanted have asked for pardons. All of them. All of them.
if it happened right afterwards, but Jim had called. I answered the phone, said, "1 second." he knew it was, I guess he knew it was me. I introduced myself, but I don't remember if he called my cell phone or if he had called one of Mark's.
Again. How do I think, do you think anything will come of this? Oh, yes.
But I answered the phone and said, 1 sec, Mark's on the hall, I'm going to go hand the phone to him. He said, okay. So I went down, I asked the valet if Mark was in the dining room. The valet said yes. I opened the door to the dining room, briefly stepped in to get Mark's attention, showed him the phone, like flipped the phone his way so he could see it said Jim Jordan. He had stepped to where I was standing there holding the door open, took the phone talking to Jim with the door still propped open. So I took a few steps back. So I probably was 2 feet from Mark. He was standing in the doorway going into the Oval Office.
So keep in mind, Mark Meadows is party to this conversation directly talking to Jim Jordan. She's a witness to it. She's just a couple feet away. The door is open. And Pat Cipollone is inside the room, probably an equal distance away inside. So both of them are witnesses to a conversation that Mark Meadows had. That's important, and why they're putting this in there. This is important to her teeing up one of the two of them as far as their testimony.
This dining room. They had a brief conversation, and in the crossfires, I heard briefly like what they were talking about, but in the background, I had heard conversations in the Oval dining room at that point talking about the hang Mike Pence chants.
That clip ended, Ms. Hutchinson, with you recalling that you heard the President, Mr. Meadows, and the White House counsel discussing the hang Mike Pence chants. And then you described for us what happened next.
It wasn't until Mark hung up the phone, handed it back to me. I went back to my desk. A couple minutes later, him and Pat came back, possibly Eric Hirschman too. I'm pretty sure.
By the way, Eric Hirschman, even he and Pat Cipollone clearly bonded during this time. And Hirschman's the dude with the bat that says justice on his wall and the scalps, which I will maintain until we find out different, because they probably aren't, but I like the idea. It's Trump, Jared, and Ivanka. That's the scalps. They're probably from some Casey one who gives a shit. But anyways, that's the guy who's like, I don't want to hear any words out of you, but orderly transition. That's that guy.
I'm sure Eric Hirschman was there, but I'm confident it was Pat that was there. I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong. To which Pat said something, this is effing crazy.
Yeah.
We need to be doing something more.
Yeah, the fact that, here's the weird part for me about that. It's insane that you float that as an okay statement. He didn't want to do anything. He thinks they're right or whatever. You're his chief of staff. Like, you have to be screaming at him at this point. This is not one of those moments where you're like, I don't know, whatever, who gives a shit? They may, like, at this point, it was not necessarily impossible that these assholes could have drugged Mike Pence out. If Mike Pence's security detail hadn't been fucking on the ball, he could have exposed himself to some of these folks, and they would have swamped these Secret Service guys. A couple of them would have gone down in the process. But once they got a hold of Mike Pence, it would have been Saddam Hussein time, man. It would have been fucking gnarly. And the fact that he's like, you heard him. He doesn't want to do anything. And that's why Cipollone and these guys are like, this is fucking insane. I don't care if you should be screaming at him to do something at this point. He should have to fire everybody. He should be alone in the fucking building at this point.
Briefly stepped into Mark's office, and when Mark had...
Yeah, he was only 40 feet, the riders were only 40 feet away from him, and he was their primary target. There were 3 people they desperately wanted to kill that day. Pence, Nancy Pelosi, who they blamed for everything, and AOC as again, sort of a trophy kill. Like, these were the most talked about. They talked about killing any Democrat they came across. And I'm sure, and a few of them had their hit lists with them. But those were the three primary ones. Those are the people who are most in danger that day. And the irony is that, first of all, nobody's surprised that it's the Democratic Speaker of the House and it's the first woman. The shocker should be that it's Mike Pence, and holy shit, why wouldn't the guy want to protect his second in charge? Well, because he wants to replace him with fucking Mike Flynn.
Said something, when Mark had said something to the effect of, he doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong. The people who charged into the Capitol with a Confederate flag, who sharpened flagpoles and beat a cop with a Blue Lives Matter flagpole, tased a cop till he had a heart attack, trampled one of their own to death. I mean, destroyed the fucking place. Like, just broke windows, bent doors off their hinges, broke shit, took a shit in the rotunda, pissed on walls. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just letting off steam, people. Wow, 1.7 thousand. Holy smokes. Thanks for being here, guys. Welcome to the show. If you're usually here, I appreciate it. If you're not usually here, by God, settle in. This is HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. This will be sort of a long-form version of things today. Well, I mean, I always do long-form stuff, but these clips, we all watched this today. This was the last-minute Jan 6 committee hearing that happened today, which I personally believe they wanted to do not because they were going to do her testimony just like this, maybe next week or the week after, but whoever she's talking about in particular, either Meadows or Cipollone, more than likely Cipollone, is going to testify sooner rather than later. And because of that, they needed to get all of her stuff on record.
Knowing what I had heard briefly in the dining room, coupled with Pat discussing the hang Mike Pence chance in the lobby of our office, and then Mark's response, I understood there to be the rioters in the Capitol that were... Yeah,
Antifa and BLM. If you really look at the history of Antifa and BLM rioters, most of them didn't have an issue with, cops or, bad cops in particular, or even Donald Trump. It was really Pence. It's really, that's who they hated. If you listen to if you go to any of the footage from the George Floyd riots, I mean, all you heard was hang Mike Pence. Jesus fucking Christ. The only people who give a fuck about Mike Pence at all are Trump, like, hardcore maggots who think that Pence gave away the game. Seriously. Mike Pence, from a vice presidential standpoint, was the biggest joke since Dan Quayle. He was like wooden and kind of overly serious and barely moved, and he looked like an action figure. He looked like let's see if I can find it. I don't know if anybody watched if you ever watched Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. They did a Dr. Benton Quest episode. Whoops, hold on one second. And Dr. Let's see if I can find images from it. The Bannon, which is, I find fascinating. This is it. Yeah. It's called, oh boy. So you know how everybody talks about the fucking Simpsons are always predicting the future? Okay. The first episode of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, which is great, by the way. The whole series is fantastic. Has Dr. Benton Quest in it. And this is, whoops, hold on. Get back here, you jerk. There he is. If that's not a cartoon Mike Pence, it's right there. Look at that. Who's playing a character named Race Bannon, and the episode is called, hold on, let me back this up. Bannon Custody Battle. Jesus Christ. That's so weird. So Mike Pence, is it? Yeah. It's the Johnny Quest ad. Exactly. It's about Johnny Quest's, in the custody battle round, but it's Race Bannon's custody battle. And the character Race Bannon looks exactly like Mike Pence, and it's just fucking odd. And it's a gay custody battle between him and his like manservant dude who works with him all the time. Who's the man with the suit? It's such a good show. It's such a good show. I just think that's fucking hysterical. That yes. Thanks, Mark. By the way, like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Anyways, that just stands out to me. Like she's this is Rachel from Blade Runner, or or your favorite Criminal Minds investigator, and the whole thing reeks of a Harvey Birdman episode. Everything's a reboot. This is the worst simulation phase we've ever been in. Can we just get through the big boss of this phase and go back to the boring one?
Chanting for the vice president to be hung.
Let me pause here on this point.
Mm-hmm.
The rioters chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." The President of the United States, Donald Trump, said that, quote, "Mike deserves it."
Uh-huh. Him, that fucking guy. The guy who did nothing but stare a hole in the back of Trump's head the entire time he was there trying to pray light into Trump's brain, because that's what that was. It was just like, and in his head, he's like, "Jesus, hear my words. Grant this man be a tool of your greater good. In spite of him, he is flawed, but in the most perfect way. You work in mysterious ways, and how anyone thinks this man works is a mystery. But I'll stand here and do this if this is what it takes for me to be next in line. Amen." Like, that's Jesus Christ.
And that those rioters were not doing anything wrong. This is a sentiment that he has expressed at other times as well.
He still does.
In an interview with ABC News correspondent Jonathan Karl, President Trump was asked about the supporters chanting "Hang Mike Pence" last year.
Jesus Christ.
Instead of condemning them,
he's like, this is so great. Like, this is a classic Trump kind of sideline diversion where he's like, well, I mean, people were pissed. Like, that's not the question, fucko. You can still be pissed, think things are wrong, but you don't go as far as to where you're going to hang the dude you've been working with. He's your dude. He's on your team.
Former president defended them.
To hang Mike
because
Pence.
it's common sense.
It's common sense to hang Mike Pence.
It's common.
I don't know why that wasn't it's common sense to hang Mike Pence. Vote Trump Pence 2024.
Sense that you're supposed to protect. How can you, if you know a vote is fraudulent?
He doesn't. That's the thing. Your presumption is off.
Right? Yeah. How can you?
No, not right. No, not right. He doesn't know any such thing. He's not convinced. No one else is convinced. You need to be convinced, because without the presidency, you're fucked. You're a lunatic. You're the one that's inverting this thought, and this drives me crazy because we saw this when it happened. When this interview came out on MSNBC, they did something similar. They played this part of it out. It's common sense that if you elect someone like Trump, he's going to fuck anybody who gets between him and whatever point of security. He's always a cornered wild animal.
You pass on a fraudulent vote to Congress.
They didn't. He wasn't. That's not what he was there to do. That's not what he was doing. You hadn't made your case. You're a loser. Get used to the idea.
President Trump's view that the rioters were not doing anything wrong.
It's common sense. I mean, it's common sense. You lose an election, you hang the vice president. I mean, it's the great American tradition. It's, who can remember Lyndon Johnson? And remember when Al Gore? No. Remember when Dan Quayle? No. Remember when Walter Mondale once? No. Remember when Richard Nixon? No.
And that, quote, "Mike deserved it," helps us to understand why the president did not ask the rioters.
This also helps us remember why Donald Trump has zero friends. Not a fucking friend in the world. I mean, obviously, Epstein's death was a huge blow, but even then, I would call them business acquaintances. That said, Trump has no friends. None. He has like-minded, greedy business dudes that operate in social circles. That's not what a friend is. Think about what your best friend means to you and know that that thought that you're having right now is a thought Donald Trump has never had and will never have. I'm not kidding. I'm not even talking about this in a pejorative fuck him kind of a sense. I don't like the guy, but that's true whether you like him or not.
Rioters to leave the Capitol for multiple hours. In fact, he put this tweet out at 2:24 p.m.
Yeah. Kill him! It's like at the end of Dumb and Dumber, you know. You don't think I know about Freda Felcher, Mr. French Tickler? All right, kill me. Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. It's common sense. Giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones that they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth. This is when people are already storming up the steps. This is when violence has already occurred. And he knows this. This is a go get 'em tweet.
Ms. Hutchinson, do you recall seeing this tweet in which the president said the vice president did not have the courage to do what needed to be done?
I do.
And Ms. Hutchinson, what was your reaction when you saw this tweet?
Let me look at real quick. Let's see. Jan 6 timeline minute by minute by minute by minute. Hold on. Minute by minute by. All right, hold on. Let's see. 105, 130. Okay, when was the time on that one? Let's go back to here, if I may. Let's go back to here. Minute by minute by minute. So here you go. Shortly after 2 p.m., protesters break windows and climb into the Capitol. They open doors for others to follow. That's before this tweet. Secret agents whisk Pence off the Senate floor. A few minutes later, Pelosi is ushered off the House floor. Before this tweet. 2:20 p.m., the Senate is called to recess. The House is called to recess shortly after. The building goes into lockdown. Around the same time, Capitol Police Officer Eugene Goodman saves the Senate from a very close call, waving Senator Mitt Romney, Utah, to safety, and then diverting protesters who were steps from the Senate chamber. By the way, this is why they opened other doors and tried to get people, heck, yeah, you can come in this way. Because these people were fucking morons. So they're like, we're going in. And then they go in a door and then they find themselves in a hallway and then they find themselves back outside. That was the goal. If we need to get everybody safe on this side of the building, get these assholes to think they can go in this side. That's what was going on. And if you have a strategic bone in your fucking body, you can contemplate that thought and understand it. Okay. Then this happened. Here you go. 2:24. There it is. Trump tweets Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. He continued with more basic claims about the fraudulent. Okay. 2:38. Trump tweets again, calling for them to stay peaceful, where they were obviously not peaceful at this point. Stay peaceful. But at the moment inside the Capitol, the riot continues to unfold. Basically, that's just a CYA tweet. That's like, be peaceful, guys. That's from where they're sheltering in place and they're wearing gas masks. And then this shit's going on. And then they had to be broomed out of there just less than 20 minutes later.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Hutchinson, what was your reaction when you saw this tweet?
Mark is an asshole. My boss is a complete fucking moron. I should have his job.
As a staffer that worked to always represent the administration to the best of my ability and to showcase the good things that he had done for the country.
Calm yourself.
I remember feeling frustrated, disappointed.
well, it took you that long to feel how the rest of us felt in 2016.
Really, it felt personal. I was really sad. As an American, I was disgusted.
This is why he's saying she wanted to come to Florida and all that kind of stuff. I don't buy that either.
It was unpatriotic. It was un-American. We were watching the Capitol building get defaced over a lie.
Ouch.
And it was something that was really hard in that moment to digest, knowing what I had been hearing down the hall in the conversations that were happening, seeing that tweet come up and
going, oh shit, everyone was right about this asshole this whole time.
knowing what was happening on the Hill. And it's something that I still struggle to work through the emotions of that.
Ms. Hutchinson, we have also spoken to multiple other White House staff about their reaction to Donald Trump's 224 tweet, condemning Mike Pence for not having the courage to refuse to count electoral votes, an act that would have been illegal. Matthew Pottinger, a former Marine intelligence officer who served in the White House for 4 years, including as Deputy National Security Advisor, was in the vicinity of the Oval Office at various points throughout the day.
At various points throughout the day. Basically, he moseyed over whenever screaming broke out, which was quite regular. Oh my gosh, 1.8K in the chat. Guys, thanks for joining me. Anybody been watching the Midas Touch coverage that's in here? Anybody who wants to wave, say hello to like-minded folks in there? I'm glad you guys can be here. I appreciate your eyeballs and your time.
When he saw that tweet, he immediately decided to resign his position. Let's watch him describe his reaction to the president's tweet.
One of my staff brought me a printout of a tweet by the president. And the tweet said something to the effect that Mike Pence, the vice president, didn't have the courage to do what should have been done. I read that tweet and made a decision.
And my head exploded. I read that tweet and, oops, sorry, wrong one. I had feelings, I can't describe, of hotness, flames, burning my face, heat, pain and anger, fire. Sorry. Okay.
At that moment.
And at that moment, the president's hair rolled by in what seemed like an interminable number of times during the course of the day.
To resign. That's where I knew that I was leaving that day once I read that tweet.
But yeah, that's like, I feel for the dude, but that's a little bit like a bank robber being in there and watching one of your fellow bank robbers in what was supposed to be a clean, money only, no harm, no foul heist with a dude from the bank giving you the key and you'd bought off the security guard. The idea is that we only have bullets in these guns just to make some noise. And then the new guy on the team off somebody and you're like, fuck this, bye. Do the hair again? You like it when Trump's hair rolls by? Okay.
Ultimately, members of the White House staff, Sarah Matthews, cabinet members, Secretary Chao and Secretary DeVos resigned as well. Here is Secretary DeVos's resignation.
Yeah, do you know what a fucking scumbag you have to be for Betsy DeVos to go, I've had enough? Do you have any idea? Her brother runs fucking Blackwater. Yeah, all right? He's basically, her brother runs the American version of the Wagner Group, for fuck's sake.
Letter. As you can see, in resigning on January 6th, Secretary DeVos said to the president, quote, "There's no mistaking the impact your rhetoric had on the situation, and it is the inflection point."
Wasted.
Let's also look at Secretary Chao.
There's no mistaking the impact your rhetoric had on the situation. It's an inflection point for me. How am I supposed to carry out my attempt at turning America into a one religion neo-Christic cult run by Blackwater mercenaries. If you fuck up the whole thing, just trying to keep yourself in office, you prick.
Resignation statement. Secretary Chow resigned. She spoke of the January 6th attack, and she said, quote, "As I am sure is the case with many of you, this has deeply troubled me in a way I simply cannot set aside."
And my husband is Mitch McConnell. Do you have any idea where my line is? And this motherfucker managed to cross it. How did you even pull that off? How in the fucking world do you, with my family with our shipping containers that have cocaine in them on occasion, that's where the cocaine Mitch nonsense came from, and my husband is Mitch McConnell. Oh, really? I mean, what is honor after all? My husband is a fucking turtle who hates America, and yet it took this to finally cross the line. Donald Trump was able to do it after all this fucking time. Well, it was almost too much for me.
Ms. Hutchinson, in our prior interviews, we've asked you about what the president's advisor.
Honestly, think about where these people's fucking lines are. Liz Cheney, her father is Dick Cheney. And Donald Trump was able to create a line she would not cross. Think about that for a second. You know how fucked up you have to be as a human being to find the line that Liz Cheney and Elaine Chao and Betsy DeVos won't cross. You know what I mean? Think about what they were willing to do. That's amazing. That's probably the greatest achievement of Donald Trump's life. Is he found it. He found the line on a bunch of people where we're like, there's no bottom. And this motherfucker built a floor. He built a floor.
Were urging him to do during the attack. You've described roughly 3 different camps of thought inside the White House that day. Can you tell us about those?
There was a group of individuals that were strongly urging him to take immediate and swift action.
Were those all the people who were also saying it as they ran out the door with the box of personal effects from their desk? The people who could have said this many times before, like, fucking do something, you bastard! Just run. All right, what was group number 2?
I would classify the White House counsel's office, Mr. Hirschman, Miss Ivanka Trump, in that category.
Mrs. Well, she didn't take Jared's name, so she's still a miss. She's missing something. Does a screw loose count? We'll figure it out.
Of really working to get him to take action and pleading with him to take action. There was a more neutral group where...
The neutral group. These are the people who are on the fence. Let me guess. Mark Meadows was in that. It doesn't fucking matter. These are the guys who, like, if you ever saw Fun with Dick and Jane, the Taya Leone and Jim Carrey movie, where they, I think it's a remake with Alec Baldwin, and there's one of the guys at the business who's just drinking the day the whole business collapses. He's like, "It didn't fucking matter. Just fuck it. What you got to lose?" Like that crowd, they're just hammered.
Advisors were trying to toe the line, knowing that Mr. Trump didn't necessarily want to take immediate action and condemn the riots.
And they're like, how do we run the government if he throws himself out a window or tries to steal a golf cart from the grounds and drive it to the Capitol, and then he's killed by people who think that he's a Donald Trump impersonator from Antifa wearing his skin? What do we do then? Let's have a powwow. Someone make a decision tree. We need a whiteboard.
But knowing something needed to be done. And then there was the last group, which was...
It's not going far enough Rudy Giuliani crowd.
Deflect and blame.
Oh, deflect and... Oh, right. That's right. The Antifa and BLM are to blame.
let's blame Antifa. These aren't our people.
Yes, that's why we don't need metal detectors, because it's a bunch of Antifa people who are armed and are attacking the Capitol. Let's let them close to the president. I totally believe this. This makes total sense.
It's my understanding that Mr. Meadows was in
all three groups at one point during the day, because that's the kind of guy he is.
the deflect and blame category, but he did end up taking a more neutral route. No.
Right, yeah. Because he's an asshole. He's a coward. He's a lackey.
Knowing that there were several advisors in the president's circle urging him to take more action.
Were
which
they?
I think was reflected in the rhetoric released later that day in the videos.
You told us that
You mean after it was after they decided to murder one on their team, and they're like, oh, these motherfuckers don't care who they kill. They just want some heads on spikes. And anybody here who isn't on the tiny little team that's been talking to Trump, and even them, they might not be safe, but anybody who else isn't, or that they just don't fucking recognize as one of their own, is going to end up under the bus.
at the White House counsel's office.
Francie says, imagine if this succeeded. I'd like to remind everyone in the middle of this, as much as I might get faux upset about this, it was never going to succeed. It was always going to be a failure because it was strategically planned, communicated, and executed by the biggest idiots on the planet, the dumbest motherfuckers in existence. And we should be happy and proud of that fact. Just know deep in your heart that this was never going to go anywhere and make any real meaningful attack. Now, not that somebody else in the future couldn't try to pull this shit off. That's not what I'm saying. That's a possibility. Some asshole could try to do this. No question. However, in this particular case, it wouldn't be this gang. There's no way a Trump-run organization is successful. Yes, people did die for a failure. Just an important reminder.
Office was in the camp encouraging the president to tell the rioters to stop the attack and to leave the Capitol. Let's listen.
White House counsel's office wanted there to be a strong statement out to condemn the rioters. I'm confident in that.
Yes, because they were under the misapprehension that that was their real fucking job that day. Oh, something awful is happening. We should probably release a statement. Something that might make it at least look like we give a fuck.
Now let's look at just
and the answer out of the president's office, nah.
one example of what some senior advisors to the president were urging. Ms. Hutchinson, could you look at the exhibit that we're showing on the screen now?
That's her note.
Have you seen this note before?
By the way, I would like to point out that the crossing out of illegally to without proper authority, the reason they crossed that out in dictating, don't say illegally, because that would establish that you believed it to be an illegal intrusion, and that this without proper authority lowers this from an attack on the Capitol to simple trespassing. This was not an accident. They didn't go, that sounds too wordy. I don't like the sound of that. There are legal reasons why they chose to say without proper authority instead of illegally entering the Capitol, for the record. And vote blue in 22. Like, I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about, maybe, I don't know, what are they really doing? Shut the fuck up. The fact that you're like, maybe, a little more of this isn't bad. Get the fuck out of here. Grow up.
That's a note that I wrote at the direction of the Chief of Staff on January 6th, likely around 3 o'clock.
And it's written on a Chief of Staff note card, but that's your handwriting, Ms. Hutchinson?
That's my handwriting.
Yes, Mark's handwriting was illegible at the time. And the paper kept getting all sweaty.
And why did you write this note?
Because Mark couldn't or wouldn't.
The Chief of Staff was in a meeting with Eric Hirschman and potentially Mr. Philbin, and they had...
Shmoopy saying a bunch of Civil War reenactors. I resemble that remark. Actually, when I was 8, I was a Revolutionary War reenactor. My conscience is clear.
rushed out of the office fairly quickly. Mark had handed me the note card with one of his pens and started dictating a statement for the president.
Don't say illegal. Don't. You know what? Take it back. I didn't mean to say illegal. It's illegal, but don't say it's illegal. Just say they're not. They needed a permission slip. Tell them they need a milk monitor to give them a pass.
Potentially put out.
And no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. There were two phrases on there, one illegal and then one without proper authority.
Uh-huh.
The illegal phrase was the one that Mr. Meadows had dictated to me. Mr. Hirschman had chimed in and said, also put without legal authority. There should have been a slash between the two phrases. It was an or if the president had opted to put one of those statements out. Evidently, he didn't. Later that afternoon,
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Mark came back.
Let's put together a statement that the president is never going to say while he's masturbating in the Oval Office to video of his supporters tasing cops till they have a heart attack.
In the Oval Dining Room and put the palm card on my desk with illegally crossed out, but said we didn't need to take further action on that statement.
He was too busy trying to find the best way to say, I love you. You're special. You're adorable. Now attack. I mean.
So, to your knowledge, this statement was never issued.
It was, to my knowledge, it was never issued.
Yeah, to know, like, there is no way any of this shit was ever going to see the light of day. He barely told him to go home. I want to see, please tell me they have the other take. Supposedly his, you're special, you'll remember this day forever, go home in peace and remember this until we can try again. Remember that video he did in the Oval, or it was in the Rose Garden? Apparently there were multiple takes and it took them a couple of times to get him to say go home. And they're like, will you fucking say it? And then they finally got one like, that'll have to do. But apparently there are other ones where he's not saying it. He won't say leave. Yeah, there's outtakes.
And Ms. Hutchinson, did you understand that Ivanka Trump wanted her father to send people home?
That's my understanding, yes.
Let's play a clip of you
She met Mark Meadows
addressing that issue.
I remember her saying,
And you have to understand, I couldn't tell if she was being serious or not because she has so much Botox in her face that her head can't move sometimes. It's weird. It's like a stuffed parrot.
at various points, she wants.
By the way, you're watching HAL SPARKS Mega Worldwide. Like and subscribe. Thumbs up. Whatever source you're on. If you want to support the show, do so. If you don't, welcome to the show.
She wanted her dad to send them home. She wanted her dad to tell them to go home peacefully, and she wanted to include language that he necessarily wasn't on board with at the time.
Yeah, something like, hey, you fucking idiots. Something about plebes. Hey, losers, beat it. Amscray. Something about take it on the heel and toe. What kind of language was that?
You will hear more about this at our later hearings.
Oh,
we have
boy.
evidence of
Oh, yes, I will. These are some of the best, like, mid-season teasers since they saved 2 episodes of Stranger Things, which come out next week, and I will be watching, so enjoy. And then, of course, they've just, Only Murders in the Building Season 2 has started a couple weeks ago, and now I got to wait every week.
of many others imploring Donald Trump and
Hal should be a live interpreter at the next hearing. It's not a bad idea.
Mark Meadows to take action.
You know how they have sign language interpreters? They should have a facial interpreter. Just somebody who sits there in the corner and goes, just makes all the faces they can't make because it's a congressional hearing. You know what I mean? Like, instead of a sign language interpreter going, that kind of stuff, having someone going,
Here is some of that evidence. Text messages sent to Mark Meadows during the attack. This is a text message at 2:32
Laura Ingraham. How do you not return those?
from Laura Ingraham. Hey, Mark.
Yes, my face would hurt quickly, Betsy. You're absolutely
The
right.
president needs to tell people in the Capitol to go home.
This is hurting all of us.
In the next message, this is hurting all of us.
And that's coming from, again, A woman who gave a Hitler salute at the RNC. The famous, hold on. Hold on. Ingram. This is, hold on. This is famously, this young lady. Apparently, Trump also found a line she wouldn't cross. Are you fucking kidding me? Again, think of all the people who finally went, all right, I can't. That's the most I can do. He found this woman's line. All right, here we go. Hold on. Thank you, Lucius.
He's destroying his legacy and playing into every stereotype. We lose all credibility against the BLM Antifa crowd if things go south.
Right.
The president's son, Don Jr., also urgently contacted Mark Meadows. At 2:53, he wrote, he's got to condemn this shit ASAP. The Capitol Police tweet is not enough.
You have to, and also you have to read this in like super fucking fast. You got to condemn this shit ASAP. Capitol Police tweet is not enough. You know, you have to coke his up to understand them. It really gives them, you got to get the theatrical performance that they require. Guys.
Enough. As you will see, these are just two of the numerous examples of Trump supporters and allies urging the president to tell his supporters to leave the Capitol. It would not have been hard for the president to simply walk down to the briefing room a few feet down the hall from the Oval Office. As Norah O'Donnell noted during an interview with House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, where Leader McCarthy said he believed the attack was un-American.
By the way, and the fact that he said it this way, the same way, you know, Mitch McConnell, like, this is only unacceptable, this is too much. Like, the fact that they're like, actually, I like to cut up his Jim.
I want to quickly bring in Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader. Leader McCarthy, do you condemn this violence?
I completely condemn the violence in the Capitol. What we're currently watching
For the time being.
Unfold is un-American. I am disappointed. I'm sad. This is not what our country should look like. This is not who we are. This is not the First Amendment. This has to stop, and this has to stop now.
Yeah, I don't know that any of those folks are watching CBS, Mark. Also, there's one person that could tell these fuckers to go home, and he's not going to. And he's your choice for president in 2 years.
Leader McCarthy, the President of the United States has a briefing room steps from the Oval Office. It is, the cameras are hot 24/7, as you know. Why hasn't he walked down and said that now?
Because he doesn't want to.
Now.
I conveyed to the president what I think is best to do, and I'm hopeful the president will do it.
I conveyed to the president what I think it is best for him to do, and I hope that he does it. That's leadership. Look, we caught her mid-eye roll. Ugh. How do you... I don't understand. Sorry, it was ABC, not CBS. Wasn't that the CBS crew? Hold on, back up. Back up. Yeah, CBS News. Boink, right here. Just saying. Now, granted, any of the other interviews on any of the other networks, ABC, NBC, that day, all the same. Doesn't matter. People were asking the same thing of all these assholes, and they were all saying the same thing. Well, I think I've talked to the president, and I've told him what I prefer.
Best to do, and I'm hopeful the president will do it.
Republican House member Mike Gallagher also implored the president to call off the attack.
Yeah, and Mike Gallagher, for the record, and you're about to see why, was a Trump voter, arguably a Trump supporter, certainly a relatively young and up and coming member of the Republican Party, and he sure as shit wasn't recommended to be on the committee, was he? Wonder why.
Mr. President, you have got to stop this. You are the only person who can call this off.
Wisconsin's a swing state. Republican in Wisconsin. If Trump was or McCarthy or any of these guys were trying to, lift up their presence and even things out in a state they hope to win in the future. Oh, thank you so much, Gracie Insane Alien. Best skid? I mean, skit? Skid? I'm going with skid. McCarthy could have put this fucker on the committee, right? Wonder why he didn't.
Call it off.
That's why.
The election is over.
That's why.
Call it off. This is bigger than you. It's bigger than any member of Congress.
Well, you're never going to get on the select committee with behavior like that. It's just not. I'm sorry, son. It's just not done. We looked over your CV and you got moxie. It's just in the wrong direction.
It is about the United States of America, which is more important than any politician.
See, that's going to get you disqualified. You're never going to be a future Trump running mate if you talk like that.
Call it off. It's over.
Despite the fact that many people close
that guy would have been great on the committee.
to Donald Trump were urging him to send people home, he did not do so until later, much later.
Because when he decided to? When he decided to tell everybody to go home? When the forces were already coming, when the vice president was already secure, when the House and Senate members were secure and didn't have to worry about their lives anymore, and the insurrection physically had failed. That's when he released the statement. Go home. Go home peacefully because you fucked up. You never made it. It was over. Even though you're still there, this isn't going to amount to shit. It's not going to change anything. Go home. He held that statement until the absolute last second that it could possibly have succeeded. And the minute they started brooming people out and reinforcements started showing up and shoving people out the fucking doors and moving people off of the grounds, then he released the statement. That was it.
At 4:17 p.m., Donald Trump finally told the rioters to go home and that he loved them. Here's a portion of the video President Trump recorded from the White House.
Yes, when he knew it would be a failure.
We have to have peace.
We have to have peace. Now that we've lost, we have to, remember, pull back and we'll call it a strategic withdrawal.
So go home. We love you. You're very special.
Why would he say that to Antifa and BLM? That's my question. If I was a maggot, I would be incredibly incensed right now. How can Donald Trump say that to a bunch of FBI informants, Antifa and BLM activists who've just attacked our nation's capital? It's an offense to every fiber of my being as an American. Oh yeah, and he'd let his hair go white at that point.
You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil.
I don't know what the fuck that means. I think what he means is either the rioters from the summer, that they get treated better than you or something, or nobody's been shot in a fucking riot, which people have been shot in the riots and whatever. He doesn't give a fuck.
I know how you feel.
No, you don't. No, he doesn't. In some ways, he obviously feels worse because theirs is a one-time failure in their life where almost the entire system will be set up to make you re-enter the public and go back to being a person. Whereas this bullshit is just going to drag him for the rest of his life. This is the kind of stuff that ends up on your tombstone, man. This is exactly why this is why you don't end up lying in state.
But go home and go home in peace.
In piss. Oh, I always thought he said peace, but that video looks to me like he said go home and piss. And that actually makes a lot more sense. I like that he oranged up his face, but again, they put the filter on that made his hair look kind of grayish white in this situation. That's fascinating. Oh, it's because I have the green screen on. It's almost like there are ghosts behind him, haunting him with these images. That's so very telling. Who could that be in this background? Is that the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein, right over his... I for whatever reason, hold on. Where is it? Is this the... It's constant tall display. Where is this? JPEG. This is the... Where are you in this strange little thing? Mainboard full screen jar. Sorry, I'm looking for a piece of... it doesn't matter. We'll work it out later. I have to take the green screen out of this, but it's kind of interesting that here's the... By the way, in case you're wondering, we had occasionally these assholes are stupid enough to stand in front of green stuff or wear green. And when that happens, the green screen kicks in, and behind you can see this is Jeffrey Epstein and this is Donald Trump, buddy hanging together. Oh, by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell got 20 years. 20 years to life. Which, if Epstein's any indication, you don't even need that much time to life when you've messed around with those kind of folks. It's make it bald. That's a great idea. At some point I have to see how do I get that in there? I'll work on that. I'll work on us being able to lay over some the filters on that kind of stuff. But we'll see. I think that can be doable. I just have to. It'll take some running stuff in and out again. You know what I mean? I do open the pod bay doors. By the way, speaking of which, you're watching HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. I appreciate you guys being here. This is really fun. And we're almost out of time, and we never even covered any of the other stuff this week. It's pretty fascinating. I'm really impressed with how the Jan 6 committee, got into all this stuff and how cleanly and clearly they are presenting it. Let's see. I'm going to find the Jan 6 committee's Twitter feed. Let's see. January 6th committee. There it is. So this is, let's see what they go. That's the live. That's the whole thing. This is the January 6th committee has a Twitter page as well. And here you go. So this is the car they're talking about. This guy right here. This is a great way to point out. So when Trump reached up to try and, grab the wheel or choke his security guy, it was in this vehicle. It's totally possible. Like he's interconnected in a way that he isn't in the big limo, for the record. This is definitely an incredibly armored vehicle, but it's not effectively the beast. And so when Trump was like, it's logistically impossible for me to have been able to do that. No, it isn't. He was sitting right there waving. You can see him do it as they drive forward. You can see his little hand. See him? They're playing Elton John, Hold Me Closer, Tiny Dancer, which is like, again, I love that song. I mean, my girlfriend's, she's been a dancer her entire professional life. She's a choreographer. Her show's on right now, by the way, Sunday through Wednesday at the Mosaic here in Vegas. Ladylike, she and her partner, Jamie, they choreographed and put the whole thing together. She runs the show. It's amazing. If you're ever in town, you have to go there, period, end of story. It's fantastic. I'm excited and it's going really well, and it's beautiful work. But so that song has a lot of Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza. Hold me closer, tiny dancer. It's got a creepy context when he does it. See, there he is. That's his wrist right there in the window. He waves when he's blah, blah, blah. He's right up against the seats. When he leans forward to look out the window, he's right there. Hold me, tiny hamster. Hold me closer, tiny hamster. You've got fingers like Vienna sausages. Foozle Bean, thank you so much. Great show tonight. Gives me hope. Thank you, HAL/SPARKS. Absolutely. That's what I'm here to do. There will be a future, and until the world decides not to spin on, we will live as if it intends to. Okay, so this is some of the other stuff they showed, and we'll finish out the show today looking at this stuff, and I'll let you guys go. And then tomorrow morning show, and Philip Ittner will be joining us from Ukraine, and we'll be catching up with the news from over there. The HIMARS have started arriving. There's a series of European weapons that have arrived for them as well. And basically the tactical drawback from Severodonetsk did exactly what it was supposed to do. And it looks like the Ukrainians are going to take Kherson, and then it's eventually on to Crimea as the Russians run out of people and bullets and hate, hopefully at one point. They've commonly asked witnesses to connected to Trump whether they have contacted by anyone attempting to impact their testimony. This was the other thing that came up. They keep getting essentially threats. There's a lot of witness tampering going on. A person let me know you have your deposition tomorrow. He wants me to let you know that he's thinking about you. He knows you're loyal and you're going to do the right thing when you go in for your deposition. That means Trump. That he is Trump. What they said to me is, as long as I continue to be a team player, they know that I'm on the team. I'm doing the right thing. I'm protecting who I need to protect. You know, I'll continue to stay in good graces in Trump world. And they have reminded me a couple of times that Trump does read transcripts. And just to keep that in mind as I proceeded through my depositions and interviews with the committee. Okay, fuck him. Fuck that guy. That's nonsense. If anybody, for the record, I'll just go on record today because, you know, money where your mouth is, as it were. If ever anybody needs to testify against me, as long as you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and you're willing to take the consequences if you perjure yourself, have at it. Fill your boots. Do your worst. Knock yourself out. Say it. But the fact that these assholes are calling people up, Trump doesn't read. He has people read chunks of it to him. I don't doubt that they give him parts that they've circled and go, fuck, did you see he said this? And then he's got it, you know, he watched. The only time, here's how you can prove that this is bullshit too, by the way. They made a transcript that's available to members of Congress of her testimony previous. Trump could have had access to it. He didn't respond to it. Why? Because it wasn't on TV. He didn't see it. He didn't give a shit. Unless it's on TV, he'll never know. This is earlier stuff. There's like, she gave like 40 hours of testimony, and this is where she's talking about the 25th Amendment.
What I understand, it was more...
Hold on.
Mr. Pompeo reached out to have the conversation with Mr. Meadows in case he hadn't heard the discussions amongst cabinet secretaries. And from what I understand, it was...
That's right, Pompeo. Get ready for him to run for office. It's why he had his stomach stapled. And he thinks he and DeSantis are going to give the world a run for their money. Either with him as vice president, being a former secretary of state with DeSantis, they think they're going to lock this thing up. That's going to be the ticket, my prediction, Pompeo, DeSantis. DeSantis as the front guy, Pompeo playing Dick Cheney. And Pompeo's the dude who floated the 25th Amendment with this guy. And both of them play fucking dirty. Both of them. Trump mouths off, but those guys are like grotesquely clever. Sorry, was it loud? Sorry. I was, is it too low or is it, I couldn't, like, it seems low. Why does that do that? Okay, here you go.
More of a, this is what I'm hearing. I want you to be aware of it. But I also think it's worth putting on your radar because you are the chief of staff. You're technically the boss of all the cabinet secretaries. And, you know, if conversations progress, you should be ready to take action on this. Like, I'm concerned for you and your positioning with this. You know, reach out to me if you have any questions or if, like, I can be helpful with you at all.
He's trying to do, Pompeo's trying to do Meadows a favor by saying, look, we're all going to gather around and drum this fool out. And we don't want you fucked by this because you've been on the team. You're a loyal soldier. You don't really seem to have any ethics of your own. So I'd love to have you on my team later. I mean, a totally Pompeo fucking move. And that we saw that Pence deserves it. This the This is her talking about the other thing from another.
The physical altercation that Ms. Hutchinson described in the presidential vehicle was not the first time that the president had become very angry about issues relating to the election.
No.
On December 1, 2020, Attorney General Barr said in an interview that the Department of Justice...
he slapped the table thing. 1,000 likes. Look at that. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Subscribe if you feel like it. Come back if you want to. I hope my take on things is unique and cheerful and still informative and helpful. And that's what I aim to do. Yeah. If the freakish radicals on the edges of life don't float your boat, I'm here with a couple of oars and to help you bail.
Justice had not found evidence of widespread election fraud sufficient to change the outcome of the election. Ms. Hutchinson, how did the president react to hearing that news?
He shit the bed.
Around the time that I understand the AP article went live, I remember hearing noise coming from down the hallway, so I poked my head out of the office, and I saw the valet walking towards our office. He had said, "Get the chief down to the dining room. The president wants him." So Mark went down to the dining room, came back to the office a few minutes later. After Mark had returned, I left the office and went down to the dining room, and I noticed that the door was propped open, and the valet was inside the dining room changing the tablecloth off of the dining room table. He motioned for me to come in and then pointed towards the front of the room near the fireplace mantle.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Jill Carter.
On the TV, where I first noticed...
Oh, wait a minute. Say that. What was that? Hold on. Back up a quick second. Oh, shit. Come on now. Back up one. Where was she? Yeah, this part. Hold on.
Noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall.
Hold on. Back up.
And then pointed towards the front of the room near the fireplace mantle and the TV, where...
Near the fireplace mantle and the TV. Trump didn't just throw his food against the wall because he was frustrated. He heard something on television and he threw his plate at the fucking screen. Thank you, I will, Organic Quest. I'm going to have to. That's what he did. He threw it at the fucking television. That stands out. That is not, because like when you heard the story secondhand or a little piece of it, it sounded like he was just mad and kind of flipped out, but he threw it at the television. Somebody said something that flipped him the fuck out and he threw his plate full of food at the television set. You know, the taxpayer paid for television over the fireplace in the people's house that he lives in rent free for a few years.
I first noticed...
By the way, I want his security deposit back. I'm just saying.
There was ketchup dripping down the wall, and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's not a big deal. It was just from the Lincoln collection. It's just a plate from the 1800s.
The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry.
Seriously, why didn't we make this motherfucker eat on paper plates? The whole time. As a recovering hillbilly, for the record, hold on one second. I'd like to say give me a second, okay, man? Listen here, you dumb motherfucker. One thing, look, we've all thrown food, okay? We've all been down there after church, having your little bring your own beans. That's with BYOB coming in there, you know, but you do not take somebody else's fine china and hook it at the TV. First of all, it ain't your plate. Second of all, the game might be on later. What are we going to do? Watch the fucking game through cracked glass and ketchup? Bullshit, son. Mind your fucking manners, man. Even I know that. Shit. My goodness, who are you? She's a pretty lady, isn't she? Hello. What's happening, sweet thing? I'll clean up your broken porcelain anytime.
At the Attorney General's AP interview.
Oh, he threw it because he saw the AP thing. He didn't like that Bill Barr dude. I don't know why he doesn't like Bill Barr. Both of them look like they met at a hot dog eating contest.
And had thrown his lunch against the wall.
Let's be honest. He threw it at the TV and he missed. He just ain't a sporting fella. I mean, I know he won some sort of like T-ball trophy when he was at West Point for about 6 weeks when his daddy got him in there or whatever. But we all saw him playing catch on the White House lawn. Honest to God, he looked like he was trying to catch a bumblebee in his mouth. That was terrible.
Which was causing them to have to clean up. So I grabbed a towel and started wiping the ketchup off of the wall to help.
She's a fine woman. She's a fine woman. Somebody makes a mess, she helps clean it up. She's a good people. I love her. Someday I'm going to marry that girl. All right, sorry. Some people are new here and have never seen Ficus before, and apparently it was throwing them off.
The valet out, and he said something to the effect of, he's really ticked off about this. I would stay clear of him for right now. He's really, really ticked off about this right now.
I think we're going to have to, thank you, Sandy, for the super chat. I think, you know what that means? I think we all need to go back in a future show in the near future, probably before the next January 6th committee hearing. I need to go back to that AP interview that she's talking about that was on TV. And we need to go through that one line by line. See, what do you think? We'll try to find the moment when Trump chucked his lunch at the screen. What do you think? My theory is he probably kept ordering new lunches for everything. Motherfucker. I don't have anything else to do. Diet Coke, new fish delight. He's about to talk again. Bring it in here, quick. Smash.
And Ms. Hutchinson, was this the only instance that you are aware of where the president threw dishes?
Oh, no, ma'am. He's a petty fuck. Always has been.
It's not.
And are there other instances in the dining room that you recall where he expressed his anger?
In all fairness, that I don't believe that even the majority of the spills and disgusting aftermath of meals had to do with him throwing a fit. I've seen him drink water. There's a very strong chance that he just eats with his elbows or finishes a meal like Mr. Creosote from Monty Python. I couldn't eat another bite. I'm absolutely stuffed. Fuck off. How you feeling today, sir? Better. Feeling better, sir? Better get a bucket of a throw up. A bucket for monsieur. And perhaps a hose.
Chief of Staff, that I was aware of him either throwing dishes or flipping the tablecloth.
And nobody, even when Schwarzenegger visited the White House, he didn't go, you should not eat, drink, and bake.
Let all the contents of the table go onto the floor.
Just so he could watch people clean it up. Again, it's not like Barr has to clean it up. It's not like anybody but the help at the White House has to clean it up. That's what's most fucked up about this. This goes into my category of being mean to waiters and shitty to people behind counters. If you make a mess that is not going to be cleaned up by the person you're mad at, the only purpose of the mess is for yourself and your own power play. Why the fuck should those people have to clean up an unnecessary mess because you can't hold your shit together? I mean, this would have been a fascinating story. If like almost this weird father and son moment, Trump had just gone like, Barr, we're not leaving this until you clean that fucking ketchup off the wall. You know what I mean? That never happened. He's like, get the staff in here. Grandpa's throwing a shit fit. He eats like Hasselhoff, just eating burgers on the carpet.
Breaker, go everywhere.
And Ms. Hutchinson.
By the way, you could tell from her face, this is just like a regular thing that she's glad to finally be able to tell people. This motherfucker, fucking, every time we talk about, what names did you have for him? Huh? Donald J. Toddler? What'd you call him? President Toddler? President Rump? Hide the good China. Trump's in a stomping mood.
Attorney General Barr described to the committee the president's angry reaction when he finally met with President Trump. Let's listen.
And I said, look, I know that you're dissatisfied with me, and I'm glad to offer my resignation. And he pounded the table very hard. Everyone sort of jumped, and he said, accept it.
Yeah. Settle! Settle, 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 settle! I mean, just the frigging, like, childishness of the whole thing. Yeah, I'm the fucking president. Take me up to the Capitol. This was one of the things where Giuliani comes to Mark Meadows and they meet, and then Meadows tells Hutchinson that Jan 6 is going to be awful. This was really, really telling.
Mr. Chairman,
this is the whole, like, we had no idea it was going to go this bad. Like, no, they were planning it.
We will begin today with an exchange that first provided Ms. Hutchinson a tangible sense of the ongoing planning for the events of January 6th. On January 6th...
By the way, some people are yelling you're fired in the chat. I would like to point out the fact that not only did Trump not fire anybody on The Apprentice, he couldn't fire anybody. He didn't have the nuts to do it when he was in the Oval Office either. It took Barr offering his resignation before he jumped to accept it. He didn't go, you're fired. Remember that? The whole fucking sales point of this prick was he knows how to run a business. He's a CEO president. It's about time we had one of those. And if anybody sucks, he'll go, yeah, fired. Remember that? Get out of here. That was part of his sales pitch. Never could fucking do it. Couldn't fire anybody. Absolutely, Michael. This is really fun. And I got to get off the air soon because I'm over time, and Rachel and them are going to do basically the same breakdown, except not as funny. There's a lot of accidental funny, but again, Trump was running on this whole, let's be abundantly clear. He was running on, I'm the you're fired guy, and therefore I can drain the swamp and clean up government because I'm the fucking man. And never, not to a person, did he ever fire anyone. He didn't have the guts to do it. He made other people do it. There was all these stories about, you go let them go. You go tell them. And they're like, I can't do it. It's not my job. I literally don't have the ability to fire those people. And like, well, go tell him he's fired. You're fired. It was all bullshit. Trump never picked any of the people that would come or go on The Apprentice, ever. The producers did. Mark Burnett did. Right.
Second, 4 days.
I'll kick it over to OJ to our airborne right after this. Since he's on Twitch, I'll send you guys as soon as we're done with this clip.
Days before the attack on our Capitol, President Trump's lead lawyer, Mr. Giuliani, was meeting with.
That's just hilarious as a sentence. Mr. Trump's lead lawyer, Mr. Giuliani. Fuck.
White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and others. Ms. Hutchinson, do you remember Mr. Giuliani meeting with Mr. Meadows on January 2nd, 2021?
I remember the smell.
I do. He met with Mr. Meadows in the evening of January 2nd, 2021.
And the Oval Office toilet was clogged for 3 days.
21.
And we understand that you walked Mr. Giuliani out of the White House that night. And he
Could you quote Mr. Giuliani? Yes, he said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I can't do it as well as he does. But basically, the president asked him for options, and he said, and then he and Trump got into a corner and had a conversation like that. It was like an alien language. It was like aliens. They
talked to you about January 6th. What do you remember him saying?
As Mr. Giuliani and I were walking to his vehicles that evening, he looked at me and said something to the effect of, Pastor, are you excited for the 6th? It's going to be a great day. I remember looking at him and saying, Rudy, could you explain what's happening on the 6th?
I'm just putting in the ambiance. This is what this is the full thing, because obviously she can only do the dialogue and not the actual, I'm foleying this. Any conversation with Rudy Giuliani is peppered with.
Something to the effect of, We're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great. The president's going to be there. He's going to look powerful. He's going to be with the members. He's going to be with the senators. Talk to the chief about it. Talk to the chief about it. He knows about it.
And did you go back then up to the West Wing and tell Mr. Meadows about your conversation with Mr. Giuliani?
Yes, I had to walk around the block to get the stench off of me for about a half an hour. I had to literally put myself on fluff and fold, put myself on fluff in the dryer with 9 dryer sheets before I could enter the White House.
I did. After Mr. Giuliani had left the campus that evening, I went back up to our office and I found Mr. Meadows in his office on the couch.
Both phones in his hand, his glasses still on.
He was scrolling through his phone. I remember leaning against the doorway and saying, I had an interesting conversation with Rudy, Mark.
Yes, he's like, I can still smell it.
Sounds like we're going to go to the Capitol. He didn't look up from his phone and said something to the effect of, there's a lot going on, Cass, but I don't know, things might get real bad on January 6th.
Yeah, things might get real bad on January 6th. I mean, that's the kind of thing, who the fuck needs a lawyer when you said shit like that? Oh, okay. This next witness is Cassidy Hutchins, who served in the Trump administration in the White House. There she is. She's tall, by the way. We're on an airplane. I told them, take me to the Capitol. I tried to grab the controls of the airplane. They said no. He grabbed me by the wrist. It still hurts. I'm having to use my smaller prosthetic hands. 1.1 thousand likes. Right on. By the way, subscribe while you're around. That's fantastic. Oh, and this is the dude I was talking about. So, and this is our earlier shit. So we won't go all the way back to that. And I'll let you guys go. I'm gonna sign off and have a fantastic night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow for the morning show. Like I said, Philip Ittner, our friend in Ukraine. Yes, that's right. I'm one of the few streamers operating around who has his very own correspondent in Ukraine currently, where we can have long form conversations. So he's going to join me tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time to talk about what's going on over there and some of the geopolitical issues and the like. And then in the afternoon, we'll get back at the clips that I either wasn't able to get to or that'll be in reaction to what happened today. Because what's going to be great is watching Trump's crowd trying to run interference for him. So thank you guys so much for joining me. On your way out the door, hit the like button or subscribe. If you are a troll and you hate the show, I want to thank you for being here. It means a lot. I know other places will tell you to fuck off. Not me. Everybody in my chat, first of all, we're impervious to trolling. So, we think it's adorable. And sometimes, you guys, trolls need a break. They've been through a lot. You have a rough job. You make, below minimum wage. Some of you are sitting in a sweaty Macedonian hacker farm. It beats getting shuffled off to the Eastern Front in Ukraine. But what do you expect for, to get, what kind of trolls are we going to get from somebody? You're not going to commit all the time. And if you need to bring your B game or your C game sometimes, this is the place to do it. It's okay. Because we're not going to react either way. Your best stuff is wasted here and your worst stuff is viewed as equally adorable. So and you spread us out through the algorithm. So thanks for being here. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and leave comments and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I should say a bunch of that stuff because we had a shit ton of people here. And as for everybody else, I'm going to send everybody on Twitch, twitch.tv/HalSparks. If you're at Twitch, or go to fwank.com. If you're in that neighborhood, I'm going to raid our dear friend Airborne, and you guys can join over there and send him a love. We're going to send him our love. We're going to send an air raid over to him right now. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I will see you guys come the morn. And remember, chin up, ever forward. Vote blue in 22. Bye. Will do, Andrea.